Yo, hoop fans, your sideline sage, Tips and Upstreams, is lacing up once again. On deck, deep dives into the freshest NBA clashes, ready to set the planks ablaze. But before we jump the ball, be sure to hammer that subscribe on our YouTube channel to keep hooked with our sharp forecasts and prime selections. All right, let's bounce into today's NBA Crystal Ball reads. The first prediction for today is for the game between Cleveland Cavaliers and Charlotte Hornets. In a captivating rematch in the Eastern Conference, set to tip off at 7 p.m. at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, the third-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers, boasting a 44-28 record, are ready to clash with the Charlotte Hornets, currently 13th in the conference, with a 17-54 record. This game marks their second face-off of the season, following a recent duel in Cleveland, where the Cavaliers clinched a decisive 115-92 victory. Despite missing key players like Donovan Mitchell and Max Strus, Cleveland demonstrated their team depth and versatility, with Darius Garland leading the charge offensively. The Cavaliers, despite being true contenders, face skepticism, especially with their odds of taking the East trailing behind giants like Boston and Milwaukee. Yet, their deep bench, highlighted by Garland's sharpshooting, and the formidable duo of Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley in the paint, showcase their resilience and potential. Cleveland prides itself on a top-tier defense, ranked fourth, even with their slower pace on offense. This strategic play and defensive rigor form the backbone of their success. On the other side, the Charlotte Hornets are weathering a rough patch, with their playoff dreams shattered and the team's future in limbo. Despite standout moments from Brandon Miller and consistent scoring from Miles Bridges, Charlotte's journey is marred by defensive lapses and offensive struggles, landing them at the bottom in both aspects. The absence of LaMelo Ball and Mark Williams further weakens their lineup, making them less competitive against a balanced Cavaliers squad. The odds heavily favor the Cavaliers, with a 10-point spread, reflecting their dominance in their recent matchup and the diverging paths of the two teams. Cleveland's tactical play, particularly in exploiting Charlotte's defensive shortcomings, hints at another commanding victory. The Cavaliers' control over the game's pace and their defensive edge against Charlotte's constrained offense will be key. Taking into account recent performances, head-to-head records, and team dynamics, Cleveland's upper hand is evident. Their knack for navigating through key absences, combined with Charlotte's defensive issues and inconsistency, sets the Cavaliers up for not only a win, but also to comfortably beat the spread. Cleveland's superiority in shooting efficiency, perimeter scoring, and rebounding, especially when comparing home and away games, further skews the odds in their favor. Nonetheless, the anticipated total score of 207.5 points introduces a complex element. Cleveland's defensive prowess and deliberate pace against Charlotte's offensive hurdles might suggest a game with fewer points. However, the Cavaliers' recent scoring spree against the Hornets indicates their ability to exploit Charlotte's defensive frailties. In summary, the Cleveland Cavaliers are well positioned to duplicate their recent triumph over the Charlotte Hornets. By focusing on Charlotte's weaknesses in defense and leveraging their own defensive strengths, Cleveland is poised for another win and to cover the 10-point spread. The Hornets' underperformance, amplified by significant absences, will likely curb their competitive edge. Thus, my prediction favors the Cleveland Cavaliers to emerge victorious and beat the spread, underlining their contention in the East with their strategic depth and tactical insight. The next prediction for today is for the game between Golden State Warriors and Orlando Magic. In the buzzing atmosphere of the Kia Center, it's game on as the Golden State Warriors and the Orlando Magic gear up for a clash that's shaking up the NBA. The Warriors, coming off a tough battle against the Heat but weighed down by recent defeats to the Timberwolves and Pacers, roll into town with an offense that's lighting up the scoreboard, averaging 118.3 points with a solid 47.3% from the field. All eyes are on Stephen Curry, whose scoring finesse, together with Klay Thompson's precision from beyond the arc, poses a serious threat. Yet, the Warriors are up against the challenge of playing back-to-back games in Florida, a true test of their bench strength and stamina. Facing them, the Orlando Magic, fresh from victories over the Hornets and Pelicans, but tripping against the Kings, demand respect. They're putting up 110.8 points a game on a sharp 47.8% shooting, with Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner leading the charge. But what really sets them apart is their defense, third best in the league, making a name for themselves on their home court by shutting down the three and dominating the glass with vigor. When these two teams lock horns at the Kia Center, history tells of epic showdowns and strategic masterminds at play. The Magic's stronghold over Pacific Division teams at home contrasts with the Warriors' knack for bouncing back on the road after a win, setting the scene for a strategic and historical mashup. Looking at their current form, the Warriors' offensive firepower, marked by their lethal three-point shooting and rebounding aggression, meets its match in the Magic's defensive fortitude. The Magic's ability to clamp down on scoring and control the boards makes them a tough nut to crack for the Warriors' offense, especially considering the Warriors' potential fatigue from back-to-back games. With the Warriors' scoring potential butting heads with the Magic's defensive might, the game's pace and efficiency will be decisive. The Warriors' playoff aspirations against a well-rested Magic team with a knack for defense sets the stage for an edge-of-your-seat showdown. The Magic's streak of covering spreads at home, and their defensive prowess hint at a nail-biter, with betting on fewer total points than the line suggests as a savvy move in this anticipated defensive slugfest. Taking into account the strategic depth from the Warriors' three-point arsenal to the Magic's fortress at home leads to a forecast leaning towards a tactical and defensive battle. With both teams' spread-covering tendencies, their Orlando face-offs, and the implications of a consecutive game night for Golden State expect a defensive duel. So, my tip, considering everything from defensive stats to offensive firepower and the Warriors' fatigue, is for a match where defense trumps offense. The total score is likely to fall short of the 218.5 mark, echoing the high-stakes defensive game plan expected from both sides. In a battle where possession is key, Orlando's defensive strength at home, along with the Warriors' struggle to keep their scoring consistency on back-to-back nights, points to a low-scoring game. My call, the total points will stay under 218.5. The next prediction for today is for the game between Brooklyn Nets and Washington Wizards. As the NBA's regular season draws to a close, the Brooklyn Nets are gearing up to face off against the Washington Wizards at the Capital One Arena in a showdown that's more about honor than playoff positioning. Fresh off a spirit-lifting 96-88 win over the Toronto Raptors that broke a tough six-game losing streak, the Nets are coming into this game with a bit of swagger. Dennis Schroeder and Trendon Watford lit up the scoreboard with 19 points apiece, igniting hopes for a strong finish to their season, despite it not shaking up the playoff picture. On the flip side, the Wizards are hitting their stride with a season-best three-game win streak, highlighted by a thrilling 107-105 victory over the Chicago Bulls. Jordan Poole dropped 23 points, and Corey Kispert's double-double signaled a team finding its groove as the season winds down. However, both squads are limping with injuries. Ben Simmons and possibly Cam Thomas are out for the Nets, while the Wizards are without Kyle Kuzma, among others, making this a battle of depth as much as talent. Statistically, the Nets and Wizards have had their ups and downs, but the Nets have historically had the Wizards' number, boasting a 6-1 record against the spread and straight up in their last 7 meetings. Yet, the Wizards have defended their turf well, with a strong 14-5 straight-up record against the Nets at the Capital One Arena. Despite the Nets' efficiency and the Wizards' home court struggles this season, Washington's recent form and Brooklyn's road game challenges suggest the Wizards might have the edge. Playing at home seems to energize the Wizards, a crucial factor in this matchup. Moreover, with no back-to-back games for either team, fatigue won't muddy the waters, putting the spotlight on court performance. The Wizards, fueled by recent victories and home crowd support, could kick into a higher gear against a Nets team seeking rhythm. Given the stats, the Wizards' recent resurgence at home, and the Nets' road trip troubles, the edge goes to Washington. The Wizards, riding their winning wave and home crowd vibe, are in a prime position to capitalize on the Nets' vulnerabilities, especially considering Brooklyn's injury issues. To wrap up, with the Wizards finding their rhythm and the Nets navigating inconsistency and injuries, expect Washington to not only beat the 4-point spread but also clinch a straight-up victory in this clash of the struggling giants. The point total is more ambiguous, with potential for high scoring from both sides, yet defensive issues and recent patterns lean towards a high-scoring affair. My money's on the Washington Wizards to beat the spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between Portland Trailblazers and Atlanta Hawks. In the pulsating heart of Atlanta at the State Farm Arena, we're all set for an electrifying showdown between the East and the West as the Portland Trailblazers go head-to-head with the Atlanta Hawks. This clash is more than just a game, it's a narrative of triumph and adversity. The Trailblazers find themselves in turbulent waters, having faced 7 consecutive defeats, whereas the Hawks are on a quest to solidify their standing in the play-in slots with a tally of 32-39. The season has been a rough ride for Portland, marked by a 1953 record. They're not just battling a losing streak, they're up against a slew of injuries sidelining key players like Anthony Simmons, Shaedon Sharpe, and possibly Jerami Grant. Their scoring has hit a snag, managing a meager 107.6 points at a dismal 44.3% field goal percentage, in stark contrast to the 115.8 points they're conceding on defense. Hitting the road doesn't seem to bode well for them given these numbers. Conversely, the Hawks, even with their defensive challenges allowing 120.7 points at a 49.4% clip, have caught a rhythm offensively, boasting an average of 119.2 points on a 46.5% shooting performance. This scoring spree, spearheaded by DeJounte Murray and Bogdan Bogdanovic, might just overpower Portland's struggling defense. Nevertheless, Atlanta's potential lineup woes with key players like DeJounte Murray and the confirmed absence of Trae Young might dent their offensive depth. Peering into the past clashes at State Farm Arena, home court advantage has played a pivotal role, with the home squad clinching victory in the last 9 encounters. This fact alone might tip the scales, considering the present dynamics and injury updates of both teams. From a betting angle, despite the Hawks' patchy ATS against the spread track record this season, they seem poised to cover the spread, especially with Portland's road game hiccups and the notable point spread in question. The Trailblazers have shown grit against the spread away from home, yet their current state and injury predicaments might falter against the Hawks in what's anticipated to be a score-heavy match due to defensive frailties on both ends. The set total points line at 214.5 appears modest given Atlanta's scoring streaks and the defensive statistics of both squads. The tempo set by the Hawks coupled with Portland's defensive missteps is poised to push the scoreboard beyond this threshold. Considering the team's stats, current form, historical matchups, and the significant injuries plaguing both rosters, everything points towards a high-scoring affair that's likely to eclipse the bookmakers' total points margin. While the Hawks are pegged as the favorites, the real wagering goldmine is in the total points of the game, predicted to outstrip the given margin, owing to defensive shortcomings on both sides and Atlanta's offensive firepower, particularly on their home turf. In conclusion, with numerous injuries affecting both lineups, it's a gamble predicting who'll take to the court tonight. However, an offensive extravaganza is anticipated, pushing the total points over the line. Despite the Hawks' defensive gaps, their scoring capability, particularly against a beleaguered Portland team, is expected to lead to a high-scoring finish. My bet's on the total points exceeding 200.5. The next prediction for today is for the game between Los Angeles Clippers and Philadelphia 76ers. As the Los Angeles Clippers gear up to face off against the Philadelphia 76ers at the Wells Fargo Center, the basketball world is abuzz with excitement. Sitting comfortably in 5th place in the Western Conference with a commendable 44-27 record, the Clippers are bringing their A-game, boasting a lethal combination of offensive firepower and defensive solidity. Meanwhile, the 76ers, perched in the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference with a 39-33 tally, are feeling the heat with their star MVP candidate Joel Embiid sidelined, putting their playoff aspirations on thin ice. Riding through choppy waters, the Clippers have hit a rough patch, dropping 2 consecutive games, a slide partly blamed on their recent 121-107 loss to the 76ers, yet their offensive engine is still firing on all cylinders, pumping out an average of 116.5 points per game, with deadly accuracy from the field at 49.2%. Not to mention their sharpshooting from downtown, sinking 13 threes per game at a 38.8% rate. Their defense is not to be underestimated either, snatching 7.9 steals and swatting away 5.2 shots per game, setting up what promises to be a nail-biter of a contest. Despite Embiid's absence, the 76ers aren't backing down, flaunting a solid offense that averages 114.2 points on 46.3% shooting, boosted by their prowess at the charity stripe with an 82.5% success rate. On defense, they're slightly edging the Clippers, with 8.6 steals and 5.8 blocks per game, ready to battle for every ball. Diving into recent form and performances sheds more light on this clash. The Clippers, despite stumbling of late, have shown remarkable resilience, especially on the road. On the flip side, the 76ers, having lost 3 of their last 4, are clearly struggling in the absence of their top scorer. Historically, the Clippers' visits to Philadelphia haven't been fruitful, adding an extra layer of intrigue to this matchup. However, considering the Clippers' eagerness to bounce back and the 76ers' wavering form, the visitors look poised to take this one. The Clippers, with their balanced attack and defensive grit, along with their knack for stepping up in away games, are looking good for a comeback. The 76ers, on the other hand, seem vulnerable, especially without their key man. Given the dynamics, past encounters, and Embiid's absence, the Clippers stand out as favorites to clinch the victory and beat the spread, with their depth and offensive efficiency, particularly from beyond the arc and in snagging rebounds, giving them the upper hand. Taking into account both teams' scoring abilities and recent trends, expecting a high-scoring showdown seems logical. This encounter is shaping up to be a fierce battle, but the Clippers, with their mix of skill, depth, and determination to recover from recent setbacks, are well placed to emerge victorious and cover the spread. The 76ers' lack of Embiid is a significant disadvantage, tipping the balance towards the Clippers, who boast superior stats on both ends of the court. Brace yourself for an intense game, with the Clippers likely to edge ahead in a shootout. My money's on the Los Angeles Clippers to secure the win and cover the 6-point spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between New York Knicks and Toronto Raptors. Tonight's showdown at Scotiabank Arena pits the surging New York Knicks against the Toronto Raptors, who've hit a rough patch with consecutive losses. With the Knicks on a hot streak after dunking on the Nets and Pistons, and the Raptors trying to regain their rhythm, we're in for a riveting battle on the court. The Knicks are lighting up the scoreboard with an average of 111.9 points on 46.1% shooting, backed by a brick wall defense that's holding opponents to a mere 107.6 points per game, ranking them second in the league. Their defensive tenacity, particularly in locking down the paint and snagging boards, is formidable. Despite missing OG Anunoby due to an elbow injury, the Knicks' bench depth and recent run of form position them to weather the storm. The Raptors, on the flip side, seem to have a sieve for a defense, leaking 117.8 points per game and ranking a dismal 24th for points allowed. Their struggle on the glass has been a key factor in their slide. Offensively, they have a slight upper hand over the Knicks, netting 112.8 points per game on 47.3% shooting, but their inefficiency from downtown and the charity stripe might hamstring them. In their Toronto tilts, the Knicks have shown they can dominate on the road, especially against Eastern Conference foes with more losses than wins, and they have a knack for beating the spread under these conditions. Meanwhile, the Raptors' inability to beat the spread at home, combined with their woes against Atlantic Division rivals with a positive ledger, signals trouble brewing. With the Knicks' defensive supremacy and their control over the tempo, matched against the Raptors' defensive lapses and shaky form, New York is primed to exploit Toronto's weak spots. The Knicks might not top the offensive charts, but their defensive solidity and efficient scoring paint them as the favorites, in a clash likely decided by defense and rebounding. Given both teams' recent form, with the Knicks flexing their defensive muscles and the Raptors faltering on defense, New York is tipped to emerge victorious. The Raptors' rebounding deficiency and high opponent shooting percentages spell trouble against a Knicks squad adept at securing wins through staunch defense and efficient offense. In the NBA, where momentum and defensive prowess often steer the game's direction and outcome, the Knicks, armed with their current form and defensive prowess, are the favorites to clinch the win and beat the spread. The Raptors, mired in form and defensive quandaries, appear unlikely to flip the script in this encounter. Expect the Knicks to secure a decisive win, but caution is advised for bettors. The Knicks are hunting for a win by any margin, and the spread provides ample leeway for a victory even under 12.5 points, especially given the Raptors' knack for exceeding expectations against the Knicks. Anticipate a comfortable win for New York, but this game's unpredictability makes it a no-bet zone for me. The next prediction for today is for the game between Indiana Pacers and Chicago Bulls. As the Indiana Pacers get ready to lock horns with the Chicago Bulls at the United Center, we're on the cusp of a riveting NBA clash. The Pacers, buoyed by a recent upswing, have nabbed victories in 6 of their last 9 matchups, dazzling fans by besting the Clippers with a 133-116 triumph. The trio of Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, and Pascal Siakam has been electrifying, driving the team to excel, especially from downtown. Their recent offensive explosion, marked by a stellar 58% shooting from the field and converting 17 out of 28 from beyond the three-point line against the Clippers, highlights their ability to dominate on the court. On the flip side, the Chicago Bulls are currently navigating through a rough patch, with 6 defeats in their last 9 games. Their struggle for consistency came to a head in a heart-stopping 107-105 loss to the Wizards, in spite of DeMar DeRozan's gallant 27-point contribution. The Bulls have been struggling offensively, managing only a 41% shooting from the field and 10 out of 35 from the three-point range in their most recent game, signaling the need for strategic tweaks to turn the tide. A deep dive into both teams' recent forms and stats lays bare a clear disparity in momentum and offensive firepower. The Pacers, with their superior field goal and three-point shooting percentages, alongside solid rebounding on both ends, appear to have the upper hand statistically. Their knack for sinking threes and dominating the rebound battle has been key to their latest victories. The historical clashes between the Pacers and Bulls, particularly at the United Center, have often been tightly contested. Yet, considering the Pacers' sharp shooting and the Bulls' current struggles, the odds lean slightly towards Indiana. However, the Bulls' habit of bouncing back strongly after a home defeat adds an intriguing twist, hinting at a possible nail-biter. The challenge of back-to-back games is crucial, especially after the Pacers' recent away win. Teams usually grapple with maintaining energy and performance in consecutive games, which could sway the game's outcome. Nevertheless, the Pacers have shown grit and adaptability in such scenarios, relying on their depth and tactical shifts to stay competitive. Reviewing the recent head-to-head matchups in Chicago, the trend points to high-scoring games, with neither team holding back offensively. This scenario, coupled with the Pacers' lethal shooting and the Bulls' drive to end their losing streak, primes us for a potentially high-scoring showdown. Taking everything into account, the Pacers' formidable offense and recent form give them the edge. Yet, the Bulls' ability to defy odds and the unpredictable nature of NBA games, especially at a venue like the United Center, paint a picture of a closer match than one might expect. Anticipate the Bulls to put up a staunch defense, likely beating the 3.5-point spread in a thrilling encounter that may well surpass the total point threshold of 234.5. Ultimately, the game's fate could rest in its dying moments, showcasing the league's competitive spirit and unpredictability. For the regulation 48 minutes, I see the Chicago Bulls beating the 3-point spread. If it goes to overtime, it's anyone's game, but my money's on the Bulls to beat the 3.5-point spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between Los Angeles Lakers and Memphis Grizzlies. Tonight's showdown at FedEx Forum is turning heads in the basketball universe as the Los Angeles Lakers gear up to take on the Memphis Grizzlies in an epic Western Conference showdown. The Lakers, boasting a 39-32 record, are coming hot on the heels of a grueling face-off with the Milwaukee Bucks, hitting the hardwood for the second night in a row. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies, languishing at 13th in the conference with a 24-48 slate, are eager to rebound from a tough loss on the road against the Denver Nuggets. The Lakers are tearing through the competition, entering tonight's battle fueled by a wave of victories against teams like the Hawks, 76ers, and Pacers. Their scoring game is on point, dropping an average of 117.7 points, with deadly accuracy, shooting 50% from the field. LeBron James and Anthony Davis are the dynamos driving this offensive juggernaut, with Davis delivering a monster performance of 36 points and 16 rebounds in their latest win over the Pacers. Their knack for drawing fouls and cashing in at the free throw line, hitting 77.6% of their shots, could tip the scales in tonight's clash. Yet, don't sleep on the Grizzlies. Despite a rough season, they've managed to dazzle with moments of greatness, notably toppling the Spurs. Offensively, they've hit some snags, trailing the league with only 105.9 points per game. However, their defense holds up, conceding just 112.8 points per game, ranking them 11th in the league. When these two clash in Memphis, it's always a spectacle, with both teams snagging wins in the past. The Lakers' road game has been shaky this season, and the strain of consecutive games might test their endurance. But the Grizzlies, despite their scoring struggles, have proven they can lock down defensively. With the Lakers possibly running on fumes, this could even the odds. The Lakers shine with their shooting efficiency, boasting a 50.0% FG and a 37.9% 3PT success rate, outshining the Grizzlies' 43.6% FG and 34.6% 3PT. But the Lakers' defense leaves much to be desired, letting in 117.6 points per game, a vulnerability the Grizzlies might exploit to kickstart their offense. With the Lakers weighed down by a packed schedule and the Grizzlies holding the home court fort, tonight's game might be tighter than the stats suggest. The Lakers have the upper hand in offense and rebounding, but fatigue and its impact on their star players are wild cards. The Grizzlies' defensive chops could turn this into a nail-biter, especially against the Lakers' leaky defense. To wrap it up, while the Lakers pack the firepower and finesse to dominate, the Grizzlies' steadfast defense and the Lakers' potential weariness from back-to-back games could narrow the margins. Given the Lakers' road woes and the Grizzlies' hunger to stand tall against top-tier rivals, anticipate Memphis to beat the odds in a close run affair. Nevertheless, the Lakers' depth and offensive prowess are likely to secure them a win in a scorefest. In essence, bet on the Los Angeles Lakers to clinch the victory, but expect the Memphis Grizzlies to beat the 5-point spread, with the total score surpassing the 222-point mark, reflecting both teams' scoring capabilities and defensive gaps. The next prediction for today is for the game between Detroit Pistons and Minnesota Timberwolves. As the Detroit Pistons prepare to clash with the Minnesota Timberwolves, we're looking at a true David versus Goliath scenario in the hoops world. The Pistons are dragging themselves into this game with the weight of a dismal season on their shoulders, showcasing a record that's been nothing short of a nightmare at 1260. This includes a gut-wrenching 7-game skid, highlighted by a recent defeat to the Knicks that laid bare their struggles with shooting below 40% from the field, a testament to their scoring troubles and defensive leaks. Even with the potential return of Cade Cunningham to the lineup, the Pistons have a mountain to climb in every aspect of their game. Conversely, the Timberwolves, boasting a 49-22 record, are in the heart of the battle for Western Conference dominance. Even minus Karl Anthony Towns, the Wolves have flexed their depth, with Anthony Edwards and Naz Reid stepping into the spotlight to keep the wins coming. Their reign of 21 three-pointers against the Warriors was a showcase of their offensive firepower, positioning them as a top contender in shooting efficiency from both the field and beyond the arc. With the best defense in the league to boot, the Wolves are a towering challenge for any team. Diving deeper into the stats, the chasm between the two teams widens. The Pistons' offensive struggles starkly contrast with the Wolves' defensive might, making it clear that Detroit's faltering shooters are up against a formidable foe. History also tips in favor of the Timberwolves, especially when the battle shifts to their turf, with the Pistons often finding themselves at a disadvantage. This trend looks set to continue, given the current trajectory and health of both squads. The Wolves' penchant for three-pointers is likely to exploit the Pistons' weakness in perimeter defense, adding to Detroit's woes. The Timberwolves' drive for a top playoff seed adds another dimension of motivation that the Pistons, bogged down by a season of letdowns, can hardly contend with. The Wolves' impressive home record further skews the odds in their favor, underlining their dominance on familiar ground. The Pistons' recent inability to beat the spread, coupled with their poor performance against Western teams on the road, paints a grim outlook for their chances in this showdown. On the flip side, the Timberwolves have been stellar against the spread, proving their capability to not only win but win big. With all signs pointing towards a Timberwolves victory, and them covering the hefty 17.5-point spread, the Pistons, even with their key players potentially back, seem ill-equipped to address their offensive and defensive shortcomings. Expect the Timberwolves to continue their ascent, sending the Pistons spiraling to their 8th consecutive defeat, further cementing the Wolves' status as a powerhouse in the West and casting the Pistons as eager for the season's curtain call. Given the total points line set at 213.5, the defensive dominance of the Wolves and the Pistons' scoring struggles hint at a low-scoring affair. Yet, the Wolves' offensive strength, particularly from three-point land, coupled with their push for playoff positioning, could tip the scales for a higher total score. The prediction cautiously veers towards a total points under the set margin, with the Pistons' offensive woes and the Wolves' defensive solidity being the deciding factors. My wager is on the Minnesota Timberwolves to triumph and cover the 17-point spread. The next prediction for today is for the game between Houston Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder. In the buzzing Paycom Center Arena, the Houston Rockets are all set to square off against the Oklahoma City Thunder in a riveting matchup that's got everyone perched on the edge of their seats. The Thunder stride into this battle tagged as 7-point favorites, a nod to their stellar season run, yet they're up against a Rockets crew that's been turning heads with an awe-inspiring 9-game win streak. Led by Jalen Green's explosive scoring touch and Fred VanVleet's laser-precise shooting, the Rockets have hit a groove that's tough to overlook. Their latest triumph over the Trailblazers, marked by restricting them to a mere 41% from the field, showcases a defense dialing up its intensity at the perfect time. The numbers back it up. The Rockets shine not just in lighting up the scoreboard, but also in stifling opponents' long-range efforts, securing a second place in defense against the Tray. However, their shooting efficiency, lurking at 24th in field goals and 22nd in threes, poses a challenge against the Thunder's defensive savvy. On the flip side, the Thunder, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren leading the charge, have emerged as one of the premier offensive squads in the league. Flaunting the third highest efficiency in both overall shooting and from downtown, they have a critical edge in the perimeter play that defines today's game. Their latest win against the Pelicans, sealed with clutch performances and a gritty finish, underscores their ability to clinch games. Looking at the recent face-offs in Oklahoma City, the Thunder have the upper hand, clinching 4 out of the last 5 encounters with the Rockets. This historical dominance, coupled with their current form and a clean bill of health, sets the Thunder up as formidable contenders. Yet, the Rockets' surge and their knack for beating the spread in recent outings, covering 9 of their last 10, cannot be overlooked. Given the trajectories of both teams and what's at stake, with the Rockets eyeing a play-in and the Thunder aiming for the Western Conference's top seed, this clash is shaping up to be neck and neck. The Thunder's scoring efficiency and home advantage peg them as the favorites, but the Rockets' grit, particularly in back-to-back scenarios, is a factor that cannot be ignored. Considering the Thunder's recent exhaustive game against the Pelicans and the Rockets coming in fresh, the stage is set for a showdown that might see the Rockets not just beat the spread, but also give the Thunder a run for their money in a high-octane, tight contest. With both teams boasting prolific scoring prowess, expect the scoreboard to light up beyond the 231-point mark, making a strong case for an over in total points betting. The next prediction for today is for the game between San Antonio Spurs and Utah Jazz. On a brisk Wednesday evening at the heart of Delta Center, the San Antonio Spurs and the Utah Jazz are gearing up for a high-stakes NBA clash. The Spurs, riding the wave of an unexpected win, are looking to defy the odds, despite languishing at the lower rungs of the Western Conference. Meanwhile, the Jazz, with their playoff dreams hanging by a thread, are determined to break free from a crushing 6-game skid. Diving into the Spurs' recent form, it's evident their scoring game has hit a rough patch, sitting 23rd in the league for points per game. This struggle on the offensive end could be compounded by the uncertainty around their star newbie, Victor Wembanyama, who might be riding the bench tonight. Yet, in their last dance with the Suns, the Spurs, with Jeremy Sochan and Devin Vassell taking charge, pulled off a pivotal victory. On the flip side, the Jazz have had their share of woes, dropping 9 out of their last 10. But a peek beneath the surface shows these defeats came against top-tier teams, hinting the Jazz might be down, but not out. Fueled by Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton, the Jazz's scoring machine is still fearing, clocking in 116.6 points per game. However, their leaky defense, conceding 120.8 points on average, is a sore spot. Past showdowns in Salt Lake City have seen the Jazz owning the court, outpacing the Spurs with room to spare in recent matchups. This history, combined with the Spurs' road trip struggles and the Jazz's edge in boards and beyond the arc, sets up Utah for a dominant night at home. This bout boils down to efficiency wars. The Jazz's sharpshooting, particularly at home, could be the game changer. Plus, the Spurs' defense, too generous by half, might just hand Utah the upper hand. With the Spurs faltering in back-to-backs and their away game woes, the Jazz's home fortress could prove impenetrable. Injuries could tilt the scales, with the Spurs missing key players. But the Jazz, fortified by their depth and home court prowess despite the recent slides, stand as the likely victors, ready to exploit any gap in the Spurs' armor, anticipate the Jazz to flex their offensive muscles, and tighten their defense, not just winning, but also covering the spread. In essence, while the Spurs might flash brilliance, the Jazz, driven by a break-the-losing-streak urgency and the roar of the home crowd, are set to dictate the game's tempo. With their efficient scoring, rebound dominance, and arc precision, the Jazz will puncture the Spurs' defense. Despite both teams' fighting spirit, expect the Jazz to cruise to victory, covering the spread in their wake. I'm backing the Utah Jazz at -3, ready to witness their resurgence in a commanding display against the Spurs. The last prediction for today is for the game between Phoenix Suns and Denver Nuggets. In the sky-high showdown at Ball Arena, where the Phoenix Suns clash with the Denver Nuggets, the game is nothing short of a playoff prelude. Fresh off a nail-biter against the Spurs, the Suns are eager to rebound and cement their spot in the postseason fray, currently perched at the Western Conference's 8th rung. On the other side, the Nuggets, riding the wave of a 4-win surge, aim to keep a firm grip on their pole position in the West. Even with Damian Lee sidelined and the playing status of Jusuf Nurkic and Bradley Beal hanging in the balance, Phoenix has flaunted its scoring might, dropping an impressive 117.1 points per game on a robust 49.6% field goal accuracy. Their prowess from downtown is also commendable, netting 38.1%. Yet, their stumble against the Spurs casts a shadow over their ability to deliver when the game's on the line. The Nuggets, possibly missing Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon, continue to dazzle, boasting a 51-21 tally that speaks volumes of their dominance. Their scoring efficiency mirrors that of the Suns, with a similar field goal percentage and a 37.2% success rate from the perimeter. On defense, they're tighter, conceding just 110 points on average per outing. Nikola Jokic, the team's linchpin, has been a tour de force, topping the charts in points, boards, and dimes, and making a solid case for his third MVP accolade. Historically, the Nuggets have had the upper hand in Denver duels, a pattern that looms large over predictions. The Suns' struggles to beat the spread against Denver, especially away, suggest a mental block. The Nuggets' fortress, Ball Arena, with a formidable 29-6 straight-up home record, further sways the odds in their favor. Given the Suns' fourth-quarter wobbles and their subpar clutch play, coupled with the Nuggets' stellar home performance and Phoenix's challenges in beating the Denver spread, the Nuggets are tipped not just for victory, but also to cover the 7-point differential. The over-under, pegged at 226.5, hints at a scoring bonanza, aligning with both squads' attacking flair. Nevertheless, Denver's defensive solidity and possible lineup tweaks due to injuries might cool off the scoring spree, making a case for betting on the under. Yet, the 7-point spread suggests the Suns' injury woes could be more severe. With Beal and Nurkic's status up in the air for Phoenix, and Gordon and Murray questionable for Denver, the spread hints at potential absences. It's a crucial clash for both teams. The Suns aim to dodge the play-in tourney, while the Nuggets eye the conference summit. Before placing your bets, scanning the injury report is wise. My lean is towards the Nuggets and the home advantage, underscored by their 29-6 straight-up home record. To cap it off, betting on a new triple-double from the Joker, especially if Nurkic sits out, seems a smart move.